Well, good evening, everyone. Once again, welcome to your Investment Dominator live Q&A call. And I'm Warren Davis. I'll be facilitating the call today. This is a beautiful Monday, the 6th of May, 2019. And we're so happy that there's so many of you on the call right now, and we do expect some more to join. Hope you've all had a great weekend, and perhaps you've heard some of those great phrases by now. Either I accept your offer or yes, I will buy that property. Either one of those are great. But just real quick, before we get into answering all the questions, we'd like to do a quick sound check and visual check just to make sure that you can see my screen. Right now, I'm displaying my Investment Dominator screen. To enter if you can see that Investment Dominator screen, go on and give me a yes. And if I'm sounding okay, if you can hear me, great. Thank you, Marino. Appreciate that, Gidget. So it looks like we're coming through loud and clear. I did got a brand new headset and it sure is nice, but I just wanted to make sure everyone can hear me just fine. So we do expect some more individuals to be joining the call shortly. There's quite a few of you on, and so if you, we do appreciate the fact that you are sending in your questions, and especially on the calls when we get opportunity to answer them, appreciate you putting your question in the question box and just sending it to me, and I will do my best to get it answered on the call. So we are here to serve you and to help you. Thank you very much, Rhonda. Appreciate that. We're here to serve you and help you in your respective businesses and do what we can to support any of the questions you have, especially Investment Dominator related questions. Some of the questions we get are really with the business process, which have to do with the LPG2 program that Jack has out. So we do encourage you to go through those modules, and it will answer many of your questions. But we do want to answer if you're having any problems, if you're getting stuck anywhere. We do want to address that on these calls as much as possible. So again, we are here to assist you, and we're going to get into some of the questions that we had on our last call that we seem to be having a little additional issue with, and it's not a problem if you're having trouble with importing your records or having any questions about importing your records. This is something that it takes a little time, but you'll get good. Okay, that is just actually one of the questions, Kathleen, that we are going to be answering. Glad you're sending that in. We're going to be looking at the owner IDs in Investment Dominator and in their relationship to your letters and envelopes. That's one of the ones I'm going to get to. We're going to take the questions that we had on the last call first and make sure that we get those answered with regards to importing records. It still seems to be a little confusion regarding the when you import your list and you have individual and company records, what are the required fields? And I'm going to quickly address that. I'm just going to do a quick review of what you can expect when you're looking at the Investment Dominator and in terms of your imports. So even before we get into that, I think I'll just bring up a quick record here, some records so we can see this in Excel as well. That will help explain some of the issues that we're having. So hopefully you can see my Excel screen there, along with the Investment Dominator. So the question we had is basically when we're importing land or individual records versus company records, what are the required fields? And I just want to, again, I want to call your attention to if you do go into, okay, just log me out there. Okay. Okay. If you go into the help feature here and you want to refer to our user guide with regards to, and all you just have to type in is how to import, and when we search for that, it will come up how to import, your list for houses or how to import your list for land investing. And of course, we're going to the land investing side. And I know you've seen this a few times. It bears repeating because we're still have individuals that are having a little difficulty with the required fields. So again, I want to point out here the field names that are in color, especially this type field, first name, last name. There's a total of 11 required fields that must be in your import file. And I also want to call your attention to the fact that the field name type, it needs to be in Excel just as you see it here. If I go back to my Excel spreadsheet, you see I have type here in the very first column, and it's spelled capital T-Y-P-E. So it needs to be in the proper case, and each of the fields need to be in the proper case for Investment Dominator to realize and recognize the fields and process them. So first name has to be spelled with a capital F-I-R-S-T and capital N-A-M-E. So these are your column names here. First one that is required is your type field, and that's very important that this is a required field. Now, this other field, first name, last name, is only required if you're looking at an individual record. You can see my record number 2 is individual. So that means I must have a value in the first name and the last name category. So we're just going to make sure that those are a little different color, just so you can see that they're still required if you're dealing with an individual record. Now, of course, if you're dealing with a company record, company can be blank if you're dealing with individual, but when you're dealing with a company, that is a required field and must have a company name associated with your company type over here. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Company must have a company name. If it's blank, when you try to import this record, Investment Dominator is going to kick that out, and it will let you know that you've made a mistake there. We look for address. There, is definitely a required field. City, again, is required, whether you're dealing with land. State is required, and zip code is also required. Your APN is a required field. And of course, let me get that out of the way there. Property state, property county, and the rest of these fields are optional. Okay, you don't have to have any of the, you don't have to have the property zip if you don't have that. If you do have that, it's good to enter that field because that will help you down the road when you get ready to process your records. It always helps to have the property zip code. So if you have that one, go ahead and import that as well. But as you can see, we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 fields that are definitely required. And remember, I did share on another call, if Investment Dominator doesn't allow you to put any other optional fields, it doesn't allow you to make up fields that you want to import. Basically, what will happen is Investment Dominator will just ignore any fields it does not recognize. And if there's any data missing, like if in your company record or in your individual record, if there's any of the required fields missing, Investment Dominator will spit it out as an error, and it will tell you that it will not import that. And I think what I'll do here, just real quick, is give you an example of this. So I'm going to take this file that I have here, and I'm actually going to go on and import it so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. So here we are. We're going to go back to land deals. And remember, these commands up here are your bulk commands, your bulk level commands, and these are your individual commands. So when the bulk commands deal with statuses, and these commands down here at the lower level commands deal with individual records that you select. Okay, so just want to make that distinction right off the bat. So I'm going to do an import of my records. And of course, this tells you the list or the order those records should be in. And we always want to have it, we want to create new records, right? So then I want to choose my file, and I'm going to go here and choose, let's see, which one did I want to choose here? This one here. I want to import that file, and I'm just going to say upload my list. So that's going to go out, and it's going to attempt to import all of those records, all of these records that I just imported. That's what Investment Dominator just processed. So as you can see, there was one row that did not get imported. That was, and it tells you which row it's on. It's on row number 9. The reason that did not get imported is an individual record, but I was missing my last name. So you can see Investment Dominator is smart enough to say it was an empty last name on record number 9. That's what these numbers mean. So if it clearly tells you how many records did not get imported. So hopefully that will clear up a little more confusion on the import. Don't worry about it if you're still struggling with this area. There is an article that you can read, and you read it at your own leisure, how to import your list, and this will hopefully carry you step by step. And we'll answer any additional questions if you come up with some additional issues with importing records. We just want to make sure that you know where to find your data. And remember, from last week, I also did speak about the zip code and the APN. And this is a field you want to make sure, because Excel is basically a financial application. It's a financial tool. So it takes numbers and it converts it a lot of times. So I usually highlight for zip codes and APNs. You want to tell Excel this is a zip code. So you right click. So that's what I did. I selected the column by just left clicking, select the entire column. Then I right click with my mouse and I come down to format cells. And I format the cell, and I want Excel to know this is not a general number format, but it's a zip code. So I have to select special and then zip code. And when I hit OK, it then will make sure all of these numbers are recognized as zip codes. So that's the way you format your zip code. And for your APN is similar. You want to select that cell, select the entire column, right click again, and you come down to format cells, right? And I just want to tell Investment Dominator that now this has been an update since even my last explanation. The technical group has now made it so all you have to do is select text. You want your APN to be text. This is usually an issue when you have a lot of zeros in your APN number. Want to make sure that whatever is coming in, Investment Dominator can recognize every single number, any characters. So just change it to text and you hit OK, and Investment Dominator will now be able to process those records. So that's really all I'm going to say on that particular issue. I'm hoping that will clear up a little more confusion. And like I say, if you have any issues, just go ahead and send your questions in and we will get them answered. Okay, so getting right into Kathleen's question on what's the difference between the property ID and the owner ID. You see two different numbers sometimes in Investment Dominator. And so, very good question, Kathleen. We'll look right at an example here of, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of all those Davis County records so I can keep my data clean here. So I'm going to search by county, and I put in Davis, and remember it brings back any records. County is equal to Davis. So based on my search, I'm going to select all, and as I select all, that allows me to either change the status, or In this case, I'm just going to delete, and it says I can confirm my delete, and it took care of all those records. So remember, anything you put in your search criteria, once you process that, you can then use any of these commands at the lower level, not your bulk data, but your lower level commands to do any additional updates based on your search. Now I'm just going to clear my search. Okay. So the difference between now you notice here, let's see, the best way I guess to show this, illustrate this, is a couple of records. We're going to look at Ella Fleming. You can see here that she has 2 different land records. This particular number here is what you call your property ID. This is just in case, this is a unique number that is given to every record that's associated with a given APN. So you have an APN and you have a unique record number. Notice Ella Fleming has 2 records. That means she has 2 different parcels in our database. So her property ID number is here. This is associated with her property. Now, if I select one of her records, and we'll just go in and look at her owner ID. Her owner ID is ID number 4. This is an ID that was given to her as an individual owner. So no matter how many records, remember I shared I think a week or so ago, if you want to add additional records for this Ella Fleming, you just come up here and hit add additional record. That will keep her owner ID will stay number 4, as you see it here. But if we were to add another record, she would have a different unique record ID here. So let's go on and select her record. We're going to, now notice it's record ID or land ID record, property ID record number 124. But as I generate documents and I look at her offer letter that might, let's see, or a neutral letter that might go out, let's see. As I open that up, you'll notice that what's going to print on her letter, which is this number 4, as well as on the envelope, is going to be her actual owner ID. But the property ID number is 124. So that's the difference. If you come up here and you just hover over this little question mark when it comes to ID, it will tell you this is the property record ID. This is not the same ID used in the letter to the owners. To get the owner ID or the letter reference number, please click on the edit link next to the record you want to view and look under the field called owner ID. That's what we just did a little while ago, remember? So if I go back in here and I edit that, this is her owner ID, number 4. And that's the same record number or the same owner ID number that you see on her files going out. So I'm hoping that clears up the difference between these 2 fields so that you don't get them confused. And don't worry if you have, it's not a problem, because there's been a few individuals, they actually thought that Investment Dominator was messing up because those numbers are different and they expected them to be the same. But it's set up purposely like that so that when we add a lot of different records, I've had the individuals that had up to 7 or 8 parcels that they wanted us to give them offers on. So they are a particular number as an owner, but their parcels get a unique ID number. Okay. Very good question. We have another question coming in here on how do we understanding how to merge records. That's a very good question. And we're going to handle that one. How do you merge records in Investment Dominator? Now, the merging of records actually takes place because either yourself or maybe another representative. Some, people have Pat Live working for them, like we do. And sometimes when they put on our pending preliminary research records, they actually end up putting in the same owner name, and they'll put in the same APN. And this is what Investment Dominator looks for. Looks for the owner's name and the APN. So when it finds that, it's going to say, well, I don't know which record you want me to deal with here. So it will automatically bring up a merge situation. Like, let's say if I were to edit this Earl Lindsay here, I happen to know there's two of these in the record, but you notice this one ends in 0001. Okay, this is Earl Lindsay. Now, when I go in here and I edit his record, sometimes what will happen is when we go check our records in the county, we'll find out that a particular owner, they didn't type in the APN number correctly. So then when I type in the correct APN number, what happens is I go up here to update the record. This system is telling me that I have two records with the same owner's name and the same APN. So you notice here on the left side, record A is record number 125. Record B is record number 51 in the system, but it has the same owner's name. And now that I was trying to put in the 00, it's saying, oh, I've already got a 000. So you've got to decide, Warren, which record do you want me to really have for this owner? So what happens here is I have to select this one, and if I select this record, that means all the data associated with this column, column A, all of that data now is going to be the actual record that the system will keep. If I decide, well, no, I don't want it to be at record A, I want it to be record B, then I select record B, and the system is telling you, okay, well, I'm going to move all the data from this side over to be your main record. So there's been a little confusion because some individuals think that basically they need to merge records because people have multiple lots or multiple parcels that they want to sell or for you to buy. So they're thinking, well, now I need to merge those records into one, and that's not the case. You don't need to merge records if you have individuals that have multiple properties. The only time you need to merge records is when the system can't determine it's got a duplicate APN, and so that we don't have duplicate numbers in the system, the Investment Dominator is going to cause you to select one. So whichever one I want to select, if I select record A, and then I say merge and continue, as I forestated, it's going to take all my data here on this side, and it's going to move it into the main record. And then it's going to allow me to continue. So I hope there's some clarity now around this particular function, because it's a very powerful function. And trust me, if you have Pat Live working for you, you will use this merged record, because sometimes duplicate records end up getting put into the system, especially under the pending preliminary. Now this is a prospect record, but we see this a lot where I need to merge records with the pending preliminary research, which is that status where those individuals are asking for an offer, and so I have to merge the records so there's only one occurrence of that record in the system. So I'm hoping that clears up about merging records. And by the way, there is a user guide. I'm just going to exit out of this because I want to keep that example. You can go to help, and just in case you want to read this for yourself, search our user guide, and here we go. How to merge. Hopefully that will find it enough. How to merge property records, and then you bring that up, and it will explain basically what I shared with you. In the event that there's duplicate records, you want to know how you can actually merge those records so that you only have one occurrence in the system. Okay. Let's see. Good. Okay. Got some more questions coming in here. Very good. Record the company leads. Okay. Nick, that's a good question. Nick is asking a question, basically how to import a raw list from the county. And I don't want to let the cat out of the bag quite fully yet. Investment Dominator is not integrated with the county records at this particular time, Nick. So your question is a good question. Investment Dominator just doesn't have the capability to import a raw list from the county and separate the individual and the company leads. Now, there's some things in the works so that we can help individuals by integrating Investment Dominator with various counties. But I just want you to know that county list data information, the raw list especially, come in many different forms, as well as, thousands of records. Some are maybe land records. When you get a list from the county, they still sometimes incorporate some records that are not vacant land. When I go to a county, I specifically request for a vacant land list or the assessor's processor roll of vacant land, and I make sure that I let them know it's vacant land. But still, I still get records back that have houses on them that are not lit. So that's there's I get your question, Nick, but that's not something that Investment Dominator can do at this point. What has to happen is we just recently hired a VA, as we started in a brand new county, and we got a vacant land list that had all of the companies and basically land records, vacant land records all together. So it's got to be done in Excel. And my wife and I actually started out when we did our first 3 or 4 counties. We went into Excel and we were the ones separating them via Excel. And it was kind of an arduous task for us. It took us like 3 days to get the individuals separated from the companies, and to just get down to the first name, last name, clearly get down to an address, city, state. There's a lot of data that comes back from a raw list. So my response to you would be either hire a VA, and I think you can go on OpenPath, and there's a lady that does it, and she's very good, and she's fast. And basically she got us back like some 30,000 records, and her price, was very reasonable. And I mean, very reasonable, but it has to be done in Excel. So you have to know enough about how to parse data in Excel in order to make that happen for yourself. And so that's how you really do it. It's all got to be done in Excel. Okay, yes. Good question, Nick. Is it a formula? There are several formulas. It's not just one formula. Is it a formula? There are several formulas that you need to put in Excel, because just to give you an example, just a real quick example, when you get back raw data from the county, a lot of times the first name and the last name, these 2 fields, and I see here I have separate fields. When you get it back from the county, it might be Ellis, comma, Ferguson, and it's all in one cell. That's just an example. Then you might get the company name is mixed in, there's company names mixed in with the first and last name. And then the address information, and it's all delimited by commas. It's comma delimited. So it's not just about taking one formula and being able to separate this column from this column. There's a lot of data manipulation that goes on in order to separate these columns so that they're clean. So you have a company name, then you just have an address. A lot of times the address, city, and state might even be together. And then you have a comma zip code. Then you have somewhere you have a field that has the APN. This data that you see here is clean, but it doesn't come like that from the county. So, and okay, I got that, Kathleen. I'm gonna get to your question as soon as I can here. So it doesn't come back, the data doesn't come back clean so that you can just divide it out and put it into a format that Investment Dominator can take. So that's why I would really recommend getting a VA. It's it's again an arduous process and takes you a little time and effort. So I would personally, I would think about just hiring the VA. And if we go into the scope of Excel and how, what's the best practice, that's going to kind of take us way away from our Investment Dominator class here. That's more a class on Excel. And like I say, we ended up using, Googling, Googling a lot of Excel, how do you do this in Excel? How do you parse data in Excel? And that's why it took us quite a while. So we have another question coming in from Rebecca. Gotta move on here. Rebecca's question, a little bit of a loaded question here, but we're gonna take a stab at it, Rebecca. And Rebecca's asking, when I sell a property, how do I use Investment Dominator to create the sale agreement and as the seller and get all the info to generate in the sales document? And so I'm just going to quickly jot that down. Okay, when selling property, how do we get this through Investment Dominator? And the short answer is, Rebecca, I'm sorry to tell you, we don't create our sale agreements in Investment Dominator. You can find a copy of a sale agreement in your LPG2 documents. So the LPG2 documents has all your information on sale agreements as well as examples of a sale agreement. What I will do is I'll show you what we keep on file, just so that so if we have a customer that comes in and says, okay, I want to purchase that land, one of the favorite phrases we love to see, what we have is this example. We took an example straight out of the LPG2 system, which has our documents. And this is, as you can see, a vacant land disclosure statement. Hope everybody can see that well. And basically all we change a parcel number here, and we left all the remainder of the document the same. Now, if you notice, what we did highlight, buyer signature. When we send this to our buyers, we want to make sure they have to fill in any highlighted areas. So anything you want your customers to fill in, it is always good to highlight it so they can see it. And as you can see, this is a PDF file, so because you don't want them changing any information. So we have the file originally in Word, in the Word document, but we save it in Word and then we save it as a PDF document so that the section that we want them to look at, property and deed. So the only things we change in this document, we use this document for an all cash sale. So This is not for if you have a seller financing deal and you want to set up a lease purchase. I'll get into that next. But if you want an all cash deal where they're going to pay you cash for that property, the only thing we change now is the purchase price, and we set that we want $500 as earnest money to open escrow, and we want to make sure that this $500 earnest money goes to our attorney, which is our agent that's going to be handling the closing. So the only things we have to change is this amount here. So we've changed the parcel number, this amount, and how much earnest money we're going to require for that purchase. And then we don't use the installment sale section. You're welcome to use that if you want to do that for your seller financing. We have a separate document that we use for seller financing, which is also found in your LPG2 documents. But we make sure the buyer knows that we want your signature here, and we want you to date that, and then we want you to print your name and give us a date for that. And this is what we send to the person. We ask them, sign this, date this, and scan and email it back to us or overnight it back to us, because we cannot consider this property sold. We cannot take it off of our website. We can't diminish the marketing process until we get a signed, dated document and the earnest money goes into the attorney. And I would recommend, to save yourself some gray hairs and sleepless nights, that you follow that until you get a document signed and you get earnest money in your attorney's hands, or they have put some skin in the game. We don't consider that property sold. And Exhibit A is the only other property information that we change on this particular site. This is just an example of how we do it. We use this document for our cash sales. When it comes to our lease purchase agreements for our seller financing, we actually have a lease purchase agreement. Let's see, make this a little bit bigger. Okay, example of a lease purchase agreement. So this is for our seller financing deals, and we make sure we put the owner's name in here. Now, of course, I have all this highlighted in yellow so you can see it, but this is the information that needs to be changed: the owner's name, the county it's in, the state, if it has an address or if it has a street that the parcel's on, you want to put that in. Of course, the APN number. But this type of information goes into a lease purchase agreement, which is basically going to communicate to your buyer, you're only leasing this land from me. You don't own this land, you're leasing it. So you, as the seller of this property, you're going to keep that. You're going to keep that in your name until they pay this property off. And then you tell them when you want the payments to start, and you let them know what your address is. This is our address that they would send our monies to when, on a monthly basis. And then you begin to do your calculations where you say 1/12 of the taxes, how much per month are you charging for your service to carry this contract and to handle your business every month by billing them. And it comes out here with their total monthly payment. And that's what they should be sending you each month. One-time fee of $187.21 is to document, and it's your processing fee. This varies. I mean, some people don't charge more than, maybe $150. Some charge more than this for the processing fee. But normally we don't waive this. So if we want a down payment of $10,000, the person would actually end up sending us $10,187.21 to cover our processing fees. And of course, we have them take this money into our attorney so that we make sure we get this agreement signed. We tell them the purchase price of the property, and then we establish what our credits are going to be each month for the payments. So they might pay you $248.33. $40 of that each month is going to go for your fees for processing this loan, for handling or carrying this note. So they get a credit of $208.33 each month. And that's the way we usually run it, just straight credits, rental credits, so that no one gets confused on the monies that are owed. So this is a document that we use. We ask for the buyer to sign, and this is a document that needs to be notarized. So they will sign this document, notarize it, give the monies to our attorneys, and then our attorneys basically will make sure we get the original, or we'll have the seller send us the original document, so then we can sign our own on our side and we get it notarized as well, and then we send all the paperwork to our attorney for them to file, and that's what opens up a lease purchase agreement. So the whole point is, we don't get this out of Investment Dominator. Investment Dominator does not generate this, at least at this time. We get this from the LPG, and we just keep a copy of each of these different lease purchase agreements or your cash sale agreement for each buyer that we have in the system. And that's how we basically, when you sell property, that's how we process it. Now, there could be some changes coming down the pike, with regards to this being generated in Investment Dominator. But as far as we know to date, that's not happening. And let me see if I can take some more questions here. See if we have any issue. Seem to be having another. Yes, Kathleen. We were saying we were just talking about that. So you were saying that we seem to be having other issues. Says your neutral letter numbers do not match any associated number in Investment Dominator. When the owners call, their letter number is a few digits off from the number in Investment Dominator. And I'm wondering if you're speaking of, I just generated one. So this is a prospect. Both these are prospect records. If I select this one and I generate documents, now notice this is record number, it's property ID number 67. If I go in here and I look at this owner number, owner ID is number 19. So if I go back and I generate documents, or I generate a prospect letter, so I just demoed, this will come up, and as you can see here, this is the reference number. This is owner number 19, which is the same owner number. If I go back in and edit George Holman's record, this is his owner ID record. He's number 19. And this is his document, which should show on his document. So if he gives you this reference number, which should also appear on his or her envelope, this should always be consistent with the owner ID number in Investment Dominator. Now, what is different that I did explain is this property. This is associated with the property, not the owner. So it's the owner's property, which is associated with a specific APN. That's how Investment Dominator creates this particular record. Looks at record number 67, associated with APN, this particular APN. These are all unique records. Record number 66, associated with this APN. These are associated with the property, not the owner. So you're saying that when they call it, if they give you the reference number either on the envelope the um, or within the letter, you're saying that's about 10 digits off. Um, so we need to look at that example. If maybe on another call, if that is happening with you, then we want to find out why that might be going on. I don't know off the top of my head why that would be happening, but we want to clear that up. Um, and I'm gonna make sure that I put this is from Kathleen. I'm gonna look into that, Kathleen, to see if there's some way I could create that same scenario. Again, if you write in and okay, great, Kathleen, you put in a ticket yesterday. That's the best thing to do. If you put in a ticket, if it's something we can't recreate, I'm going to try to recreate it on my own time, so I can figure out if we see something going on. Oh, excellent. So Kathleen said she put in a ticket with screenshots. That I tell you, as an IT man, I cannot tell you. We love, love, love users that will put in with screenshots. That helps us so much. So on behalf of all the IT guys in the world, thank you, Kathleen, for handling that, because that will help us determine, we'll get to the root cause of the issue with screenshots. And I'll look up that ticket. Maybe Alex and I will talk about that together, and we can find out what might be happening in your world there. Thank you so much. So moving on here, let's see if I move some things out of the way here. We had another question come in. It's kind of a general question on, I tell you, our time goes by so quick here. A general question on how to add permission or hide some of the seller fields from someone who might hire a virtual assistant. So I'm going to show you how to add your permissions for a particular user. If you remember before, I stated that with our Investment Dominator system, or how we use Investment Dominator, we have Pat Live that is actually a representative logs in to Pat Live. And so I'm going to go on and log in here as a representative. And you notice when I go into land deals, and if I look up a prospect record, which is usually what a Pat Live person will come in and do, now I'm going to toggle. I'm just going to hit this toggle sections here, which is going to shrink all of my data up. Now you notice all of these fields now I can have access to as a representative, caller, and I don't want to, an owner of record, contact information, property information, all of this, what we call the owner acquisition data. I have access to all of these different links and all these different fields. So now, since I am king, I can go in here and I can hit my team, and hopefully it will react properly. Let's see. Let me log out here for a moment. And seems to not be wanting to cooperate with me here, so I'll log in again. So what I'm going to show you here is I can control what goes on with my team. So I'm going to take this representative and I'm going to edit their record. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to determine there's certain fields, they're already predefined, by the way. I don't want them to be able to view any of the seller information. So right now I said yes, that's why they can see all of those different records. But now I'm going to say no. And when I update this user, So now I have restricted that rep from looking at any of the owner acquisition information. Coming into land deals, now I'm logged on as myself here. So if I toggle, I can see all of these different data fields, and I can see all of these different sections, which we call the owner acquisition section. But I've limited that rep from seeing any of these, or so many of them, I should say. Any of the fields that have to do with the owner. Now, you would only want to do this, by the way, if this particular person, let's say, was a virtual assistant that you hired, and all you want them to be able to do is market your property. You just want to have them be able to sell property or put records in or information that have to do with selling your property. That's the reason you would limit their access. Normally, for our individuals from Pat Live that come in when they're putting in our information on selling a property or an owner that wants an offer on property, we allow them access to all of those different fields. But since I restricted this individual's access, when I come in here now and I say toggle, notice only thing they can see is property information. They can see the property value information. They can see notes. They can put in notes. They can access links or put in links. And they can handle property listing information, which is really all I want them to really be able to handle. This is the only thing I want them to be able to see. So you can compare this list right here, which is the rep that I suspended a lot of their privilege, to the normal owner acquisition information that's over here that they're allowed to see. So that's basically how you would restrict their access. And again, all I did was go to my team. Oh boy. And gonna make me log out and log back in again. And I will log out of this one as well. It's not really letting me multitask here. So all I did was do my team, and then I came over and I edited their record. And as you can see, down at the bottom, I said no to their inputting any view of seller information. So that's kind of the way you will keep an eye on what type of information you let the reps see. And I think we have time for a couple more questions here. So I'm gonna real quick, a question from Doug on basically how to access the calculations of minimum, maximum, and offer amount. This will assist in marketing research. So this is actually a new feature that is within Investment Dominator. Kind of a real cool feature that Alex put together, and I've used it, and it does save me time doing my market analysis. So if I go back to land deals, so the question basically has to do with, being able to get access to your minimum, your maximum, your offer amount, calculating your offer amount in your market research analysis. And this was this was actually put in because users, like yourself, called in and said, well, hey, we normally have to keep scrolling all the way back up to the top of our user records, our land records. So someone here that's in pending preliminary research, we'll use Andrew and Linda Simpson here. So normally if I want to calculate, I come up here and select options, the drop down, and come over here and I have to calculate option amount here. But when you're doing land analysis, you're usually way down in this section, putting in hopefully the annual taxes, and let's just say 135.43. You're down in this section, and you don't want to have to always scroll all the way back up to the top to, we've already put in our county assessed, we've put in our market value. And so what we're trying to do here is we're trying to get to this offer amount here. So because a lot of users stated, well, hey, I don't want to have to scroll all the way back up here, go into options, and then calculate. You can do that. Now that's what I've had to do, but it's so much quicker when I put in especially I put in my county assessed and my market value, and all I'm trying to do is calculate my offer amount. I want my offer amount to show up here. So Alex put this little cool calculator right over here to the right, and all you do is smack on that. I tell you, there you are. You are right there where you can now put in, you have your minimum, your maximum, and you can put in your offer amount. So somewhere between 13,000, I'm going to go maybe, we're going to give this guy $15,979.82 for his property. Sounds like a good offer to me. So then we hit save. So the whole point is it saves you time once you update this record, you save it. It saves you a lot of time from having to come all the way back up here, go into options and calculate at this level. Now, you're welcome to do that if you're accustomed to doing that. But I've been using this, and I'm gonna tell you what, it saves me just a few moments of time, and it's so much easier just to come down here, hit my calculate, and go right into this screen. So I'm hoping that clears up a little bit. It gives you a little faster way to do your marketing. Yes, Rhonda, I say here to that. Alex is a great problem solver. And want you to know that we're constantly taking your input with any of the suggestions. We look at those on a weekly basis, or Alex and team does look at those on a weekly basis, and he goes in and really takes them to heart, and he incorporates a lot of your changes. He did that not only with the calculating your offer, but he did it here with your online comparables. Notice these fields used to be, you have to come all the way back up here, go into options, and do your market research, where you get to, Trulia, Landwatch, Zillow, etc. But because of what you all had given us, the information you have given us, Alex built in right here at your online comparables. So you get your county assessed, then you put your market value in, and boom, you can go right into realtor.com or Trulia or Landwatch. You hit it, and you're right there. So we're always looking at ways to save you time and effort in your land analysis. And I myself, I do land analysis like constantly throughout the week. So these little helpful tips really save me a lot of time. And speaking of time, we're just about out of that right now. So I want to thank you all for being on the call and for your questions. And I'm going to do my best to figure out something for you, Kathleen, there for Thursday. And Nick, I'm also going to see how I can assist you with working with the individual list, so that you can expedite getting that list in a format that Investment Dominator can handle. And hopefully we'll have some good information for you on Thursday. I'll look forward to we have a Thursday call at 12 noon. And before we get off the call, just want to share with you a little bit of a word regarding success. Success is no accident. It is hard work, perseverance, learning, studying, sacrifice, and most of all, love of what you're doing or learning to do. That came from the soccer champ Pele. So we know success is no accident. And you people are great. We sure appreciate your time. And we want you to have a great remainder of the week. And we'll look forward to being here with you on Thursday, 12 noon Pacific time. Have a great evening, everybody. Bye bye.